Hi, this subject is dear to my heart. And it wasn't until this year that I actually met a student. Uh-oh, hold on. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Where is it coming from? Hold on. Oh my God, I'm tarded. I'm tarded. Hold on, I'm streaming somewhere. Okay, I see it. There's an echo. It wasn't until this year that I met a student in high school that was depending on, he didn't mention it, he didn't say it specifically, but it really did look like when I was giving him questions specifically to the process of solving problems. He did mention many times he used ChatGPT or some AI, right? And while his optimism and confidence was high when following up on the question, until we did some reviews and really put the pieces together to make sense, because he's a smart kid. But in the beginning, I almost couldn't pinpoint what he knew and how he did things. And a lot of it was this sort of logical guesswork, which there is a logical set of guessing you can do in, mathematics to get through, but it only takes you so far because problems get more and more complicated that, well, it's not as easy to do. So we're gonna watch something that Asman has watched. Oh, also forgive me, Asman, for not like waiting too long, to give you a day or two or three to get the views. But I'm pretty sure you're fine. This is a serious subject. This is such a serious subject that as soon as I saw this, I had to watch it with on a stream so I can input my comments because this is worse than when the calculator was created. Yeah, the calculator was a tool to assist us, but there are a lot of people that depended on that calculator. And that's why we now have a non-calculator and calculator portion to test so we can test a person's mind in both cases, especially the without, right? Because we can crutch ourselves on a calculator, but do we still have the logical process to do math without one? That's important. Well, now it's kind of expanding to AI. So let's see what's going on TikTok.
It's crazy.
I've developed an addiction to AI. My AI is actually on my best friends list.
If you're anything like me, you use ChatGPT for everything. ChatGPT is my counselor, my therapist, my best friend. It
She got a bird.
She got a bird.
Yeah, that's about right.
knows all my
I have a
secrets.
cat.
Story time on
What's
how
up?
I almost got kicked out of the University of Michigan my freshman year for using ChatGPT.
Okay, so ChatGPT is down, but we do not panic.
You're literally one AI agent away from making 10K a month.
The most
Well,
gut-wrenching
that's a different thing.
feeling in the world is when the ChatGPT chat that you've been using for about 6 months starts referencing things that don't exist. It must be what it feels like to notice for the first time that a loved one has dementia or something.
Everyone's talking about how AI is ruining YouTube, but I believe AI is ruining something much worse, our own ability to think. ChatGPT has went down several times this year, and every time it goes down, it truly exposes people who are over-reliant on the AI. People are
That's crazy. Like, I mean, to me, I feel like maybe this is the point where I'm becoming a boomer because I don't really ever like I use AI
Fair.
sometimes, right? If I want to like research something and like I just want like a summary for it. But like I don't really use it like these other people use it.
That's true.
They're thinking about it all the time.
Like we've used it in stream to essentially analyze code to get from like kind of a experimental idea and see how quickly we can make it into like code and then apply analysis on the code. We read the code, but it's almost like you're watching a stream. It's like, hey, let's make a server. Here's how you make a server. ChatGPT, make me a server. Copy, paste. All right, stream done. Right? You didn't learn anything. You didn't go through the process. Again, it's a case for a tool. The calculator should be that thing you do after you do the mental math to check if your mental math was correct. But because people, we do that first. We just use the calculator to speed ourselves up so we can finish our homework faster and then we can go do other things. Understandable, but so highly detrimental to the growth. Because you gotta think, you gotta use them brain cells.
genuinely losing their minds because they now can't get any of their work done, they can't cheat on their assignments,
Yeah.
and apparently they can't even bake a cake.
ChatGPT is down, and I don't know about anyone else, but I have come to the conclusion that I can't use my own brain anymore. Because, for example, right now I want to bake a cake, and normally I ask ChatGPT, how do you make a carrot cake? I can't simply Google something anymore. Like, I need a step-by-step breakdown from my best.
Look, there was an interesting case where in the past it was a skill to Google to know what key terms to use a plus or a minus, to remove certain keys, to use the wildcard asterisk as a sort of programming middleman. Maybe there's a word you didn't know, so it would use the asterisk. Or for a single letter, you would use a question mark instead. There were so many little nuances to Google searching. Of course, Google basically died when it made everything advertised that that was a skill set you developed, even if you were pulling information from an existing online database. But now we just ask, and hopefully we don't forget how to ask questions because if that's the next step in the evolution of the brain, my goodness.
Friend who is also a robot. And now
Why did they call it a best friend? Why can't we
See, people like this back in the day used to be, their entire life was believing in trolls and digging
fairies?
potatoes out of the ground. But now these people have cars, homes, careers, you
lot
know,
of
like
stuff.
houses, fucking like a boat, and most scarily, they have a social media account. And
Scarily,
this is a subversion of the way things are meant to be.
It's a bit scary.
These people need to be back. Like, again, they need to be back getting carrots out of the ground, you know, deciding which potatoes are the good potatoes. This is real. This should have never happened. This has gone on way too far.
Yeah,
We got a big problem here.
huge. Brain cells are
I
dying.
just passed away. So that's me for the day. I'll go back to bed.
If we as a
She looks
society are
hysterical, like the way she moves and acts. There's like a mental hysteria to that. Like, relax. But if you consider AI your best friend, that's the least of your worries.
already this dependent on ChatGPT and can't be bothered to Google something the moment the
It's
servers
going to get better for sure, right?
go down, we as a society are baked, and not in the fun way. Cookbooks, Google, I think even the flour bag has a recipe on it, or just call your
Yeah, I was
True.
about to say,
Like it's
like,
written on the
doesn't it
back.
have, like, if you're making carrot cake, doesn't it
Yeah.
just say on the back of the cake what to do?
I mean, if you're
Because,
making
like,
it from
if I buy a
scratch,
cake
no.
mix, it just says on the back of the mix, put this much water in and then put it in the fucking oven. Like, it's not like this is complicated. Like, you don't need ChatGPT. They already ChatGPT'd it for you.
It's the instructions on the
Fucking
back.
50 years ago.
Turn the package over.
grandmother, I'm sure she has a recipe and she would love to hear from you. And of course, every time ChatGPT goes down, everybody goes to Reddit to let everybody else
Yeah.
know what they already know is that the servers are down.
At this point, if I was ChatGPT or any of the people working there, I would purposely put the server down and then keep an eye on Reddit to see just how dependent people are. Great statistical value to just see how it's integrated into everyone's lives. That would be devious.
Well, I mean,
Caption
to be
said-
fair, this happens with any video game, too. I mean, that's just people trying to figure out if it's broken or not.
Because when ChatGPT tells you Australians don't need a visa to enter Chile, but it's wrong and too late now.
Oh no. This guy is at the freaking airport trying to go to Chile and ChatGPT told him it's fine. You don't need a visa. So now he has to pay money to go back. You cannot trust these 100%. You have to verify. Wow. That's
People are now relying on ChatGPT for travel information, which, as we know, gets
Wow. Oh my
updated.
God.
It's not always the same. ChatGPT, of course, can not only have outdated information, it can
Yeah.
also hallucinate.
It
This
just
is
has wrong information because it aggregates the info wrong, what it reads wrong. That it can just happen. The thing is that I feel like the ChatGPT brain is similar to kind of how Wikipedia was in the 2010s, where people, instead of looking for primary sources, would look through and
The
look
main
for
page.
kind of like an amalgamation of information on Wikipedia. And I think that really what smart people did And you guys know this if you went to college, like in like from like, because for me, I went to college like 2008, 2012 or 13, right? Somewhere around there.
What smart people didn't do was copy and paste from the page because it's already basically easy to find out if you're gonna, copy and paste. But you would go into the sources at the bottom and just do your own research or copy and paste from there. But, depending on how much effort you put into your work.
Like you would go on Wikipedia, but then you would find the primary source that's sourced in Wikipedia and then use that as the actual source that you're using to verify that the information is accurate, right? And the ironic thing about this is that ChatGPT has the exact same function, because all of the information that it has, at least with Grok, which is the Twitter one, is that, or X one, is that it sources where it finds everything. So, like, shouldn't you double check this?
Yeah.
AI gives wrong answers because it's not thinking. It's guessing through statistic tricks over what the next word is most likely to be right.
Super true.
But like it's
statistical tricks.
People that are thinking also give wrong answers. Okay, like let's not pretend like this is some kind of unique thing that AI is stupid and people aren't. We just really rely on its training set unless we're speaking about some fixed source skill like programming or video editing. Yeah.
Fascinating to me because this was such a simple Google search, but
Yeah.
it's like people don't want to Google anything now. They don't want to search out information.
Well, to be fair, Google hasn't necessarily made that any easier for people. Google is awful to use now because Google uses Gemini for every search as well, which is their AI tool. And then on top of Google's AI tool happening, then you also have a bunch of sponsored results and badly curated results. Like Google in 2006 was probably the greatest website that's ever been made, but Google in 2025 seems like a psyop. As soon as they started like in 2015, 16ish, whenever they started exercising like editorial control over like which sites got mentioned and which ones didn't, that's when things started falling apart.
Themselves. They just want.
There's an interesting case too for the way that Google would figure out which website should go on the top. Back before 2015, it was kind of based on the content, the amount of times it saw the word in there, and a lot of like hacks or ways to make your website go up, which was kind of lame and actually made sense, was to basically take a white background to a wallpaper and then put a layer underneath all your other text and put a text layer in white so the background and the text would like just kind of blend in together so you never see those words, and then just spam a wall of the keywords you wanted your website to basically be counted for. So if you were selling games, your whole back wall would be every single game that you can possibly think of, all the categories, but you'll never see that text because it was a white text and a white background. And that would be kind of a hack to basically put your Google or your page up on the top Google spaces. So now it's a little bit more complex and selective. The algorithm has changed dramatically, including the fact that you have to have multiple locations online and they're all interconnected with keywords and links, etc. Right? So there's a lot of like SEO, search engine optimization, that you have to kind of consider when you're doing it. But back in the day, it was so simple. It's like, what keywords are on your page? Okay, you're on the top now because this person searched those keywords. Done. But it got complicated and it got obfuscated. So I kind of see that.
Answers given to them automatically, regardless if it's true or not. I was recently thinking about all the know-it-alls in the world, right? I think we all know someone who kind of just says things and you're like, where did you get that from? And I don't know where they get it from. They just pull it out of thin air, but they say it confidently because they themselves believe it, and now they're trying to pass it on as truth.
Last night, I went out with friends, and one of my friends brought a friend. We were talking about space, and I said, fun fact, the size of Neptune's storms are so large they could eat Earth. And then little Tagalong speaks up and he goes, oh, that's not true, bro. That's not. Let's show him with proof that it is true. And he goes, no. He takes out his phone.
Oh, you're going to believe NASA. Oh, aren't they the ones that faked that moon thing? Ah, yeah, right.
Oh, God.
Where are we at? Are we good? Wait. Do we have an F?
Okay, so it wasn't me. It was him. He had a bit of an issue there.
We're good? Okay, good. I was worried for a second there. Yeah, you can't believe now.
Is that me now? No, it's
Yo, chat, is this real? You're using an AI model to fact check NASA.
Why use
Yep.
brain?
Oh man.
Doubting official sources of truth, such as NASA,
Okay, it's
and
the video doing
opting
that, by the
for
way.
ChatGPT as
Because they're stupid. That
Oh, okay. Hold on. Issues.
test.
He's not the only one that has problems on these streams. Sheesh.
We're good. I don't know what the fuck, man. Like my internet's just been so messed up recently.
Same.
And
a lot of my
anyway,
students
I
too.
forgot what.
In fact, one of my students today had their internet down all morning. A week ago, 3 of them had their internet down and they were between California and Florida. So it's super weird how like randomly, hey, you have no internet for a whole day. Sus. The Russians, it's the Russians. They're hacking everything. Or the Chinese. Oh,
It's just because they're dumb. That's the reason why. It's not some sort of like elaborate, crazy, oh, I wonder what this is. They're just stupid.
source of truth. People are now using AI to cheat during their interviews.
You're
This
leading an
too.
army of ants in a battle against grasshoppers. What's your first strategic move?
I think my first strategic move would be to assess the terrain and identify any natural advantages that we can leverage, such as narrow paths or elevated areas.
So you can see the AI
This
has
seems
been
like a meme, by the way. I don't think this
listening
one's
to
real.
the conversation, and it just output.
I have taken an AI interview before. This was for what the heck was that? A tutoring platform. Forget what it's called, but basically they threw me in on an interview and I had to like talk with an AI and answer specific questions, and it was so empty. Like the AI, of course, would try to give some sort of complimentary feedback or some sort of like acknowledgement and all this kind of robotic stuff, but it was a weird case, man. And you know what? If employers are going to start using it, you can't just say that employees or potential employees can't do it. Like if you're going to use it, then we're going to use it. It's kind of a, double-sided sword here. But they're going to try and scan your eyes and make sure you're not using an AI, but it's okay if they use an AI. It's a weird place we're in right now.
Yeah.
The answer, and she's kind of reading it off. I understand, okay? I understand. The
Yeah, it seems like a
interviewing
meme.
process, job hunting, I get it. It sucks. I think imposter syndrome is something we have all struggled with at least at some point in our
Except me.
careers. And if you can't answer the questions in an interview, I don't know. I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure. I know
Well,
employers
you're setting yourself up for a paycheck. And that's the thing is that, and this is, people lie on job interviews. Like, the only job application I didn't lie on was my one to the IRS because it was the federal fucking government, right? Other than that, I lied on every single job application, every application that I ever did. Anything that I possibly could, I would lie about everything. And again, because why? Because I want to get the job. Like I don't like, oh, they're gonna fire you. Okay. Well, then I'm at the same place that I was already at, and they still have to pay me for the time before they figured out that I was bullshitting them. So fake it till you make it. Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I did on job suit. Yeah, always lie unless
Mangoes,
it's a
mustard,
job that you can get arrested for lying on. Don't do that.
Balkan range.
themselves are using AI, so now potential
job
employees
application.
are fighting back
I'm not
using
sure.
AI themselves.
I'm not sure why you're using military language there, but I do see Balkan Rage job application. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this will just lead employers to coming up with new tactics to see, are you using AI?
I think we've reached a point with AI where we can confidently say this is not a tool that is revolutionizing learning. This is a nightmare that is destroying learning. Not once have I seen a single student use AI as a resource or in a way that is even remotely ethical. 100% of times when I see students use it, it is so they do not have to think. I'm talking about...
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. There's going to be no more thinking.
That's the problem.
There will be no more thinking at all. This is over. Okay? This is over. And also, here's the thing. Schools nowadays don't...
Like and subscribe, guys, if you want to think, if you want to build your brain, if you want to learn all kinds of things, mathematics, programming, keep them brain cells going. The moment you stop, Just like any other muscle, the moment you start losing that, don't be that person. Don't depend on AI. Use it as a tool. Don't depend. Don't use it as a crutch.
Don't teach you long form arithmetic anymore because we have calculators that do that. I think that this is going to have to be a change that comes from both sides. I think that schools and teachers are going to have to reinvent the way that they teach people if technology can just so easily solve the problem that they're bringing up. That this is a new meta. Like, you have to change the meta of learning, and the meta of learning has changed many times over the years. It's not like this is the first time. Think about how much the internet changed things. Think about how much computers changed things. Think about how much calculators would have changed things. It's totally different.
Yeah.
You're years behind. Yeah, you're years. Yeah, you don't want to teach. Like, you're not going to. Why would you? Are you really preparing students for the real world by not preparing them and not teaching them to use the tools that everybody in the real world uses? No, you're not.
Putting an essay prompt into ChatGPT, not even reading the essay prompt, copying and pasting the results into a doc and submitting it without even reading it
Easiest
over.
More and more teachers are...
Easiest essay of my fucking life.
It's horrible.
There you go.
Coming out and claiming how AI is terrible for students. And I'm always surprised by the amount of backlash that these teachers get. There's a huge difference in giving AI to an adult to be used as a tool and giving AI to a student to be used as a crutch. An adult already has critical thinking skills, whereas a child...
Debatable, right? The face on him. That's debatable. Yeah, it's debatable.
hasn't developed their critical thinking yet. These students need to be writing things for themselves.
Yes.
Writing, reading, spelling, all of those things lead to critical thinking, abstract thinking, which is the basis of just learning how to learn. How can they fact check an LLM if they can't even on their own create their own stories? People also love to compare AI to when calculators were introduced.
Yes.
Have you ever asked a calculator how to boil an egg? Have you ever asked a calculator to write a resume for you? They're not the same thing.
No, but I have asked a calculator how to calculate the hypotenuse of something, or how to, do a graph or something like that. There's a lot of graphing calculators that do, and they perform functions that people no longer need to directly understand how to apply themselves. I think that it's undeniable that calculators have changed the way that people learn math.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is. And same with statistics or anything else. Yeah, so you do have to use and adapt to technology. And I think also, like, you ask yourself the question, are you doing your students a favor by teaching them a bunch of vestigial tools and vestigial methods to do something that nobody in the real world is effectively doing? Because you ask yourself, like, school in a lot of ways is to prepare you for the real world. And it's to prepare you for employment. And it's also to make you like an intelligent person and to make sure you understand the global, or cultural like norms and everything. But primarily, it's also so you can learn how to be an adult, a functional adult. And so if you're constantly teaching people these vestigial methods that are no longer being used by the public, are you really fulfilling your role as a school, as a teacher? And the answer, in my opinion, is no. No, you're not. You're doing something because that's what you've always done, and the world is changing, and you refuse to change along with it.
AI can do way more things than a calculator, including math, kind of. As the teacher mentioned, students just copy prompts and paste them into ChatGPT.
Yes.
And this is happening so often in universities that professors are now using a Trojan horse to detect AI.
Everyone is cheating their way through college.
That's insane. That's insane.
Back whenever I was in college, a lot of people was cheating their way through college.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because back then, what you used to do is that you would get an assignment, and then you would look up the book number, and then you would look up the workshop and everything, and it would give you all the answers. Like, this is actually stuff that people like. I like, as somebody who like, because for me, like, my goal was always how can I, like, I didn't care about learning. I cared about winning. And for me, winning was min-maxing and getting this done at the highest level with the lowest amount of time. That was it. And so people will always be cheating.
Now it's much easier, I guess.
Yeah, you're not going to write a thesis by looking up a workbook, bud. Well, a thesis statement, like, this is like, I mean, number one, like, that's way, way later on down the line. But, and also, like, if you can invalidate 80% of the work, then you have 80% more time to deal with the remaining 20%, which is going to make you even better at doing that. It's just logical.
Professors will put something like, mention Dua Lipa. If you don't know, she's an artist. But the interesting thing is students aren't even reading what ChatGPT is giving them. They're not even reading their work. They're just submitting the whole thing. And then somewhere in the essay, it mentions Dua Lipa, which if you wrote that yourself, or if you even halfway wrote it going back and forth with ChatGPT, you would wonder, why is it talking about Dua Lipa? They're not even reading the prompt. The caption says,
that's crazy. I mean,
they're just copying and pasting the whole thing and then just letting it write. Yo, I mean, this is gonna really like, it's gonna kill brain cells. A big story is the way our brain works in a general sense. My grandma and grandpa, my grandpa passed away, but my grandma is 90 years old, and she's still very, very competent. She takes care of a garden, takes care of animals, very smart woman. But there was an interesting difference between their brains, both of them. I lived with them for some time just to kind of get to know them, since I didn't really live with them for a while. And my grandma is very calculated, loves Sudoku, and essentially does really good mathematics and kind of like mental estimations, any sort of kind of calculations she may want to do, organization, dates, all kinds of stuff like that. My grandpa was good at memory. He would use crossword puzzles. He would dig deep into his memory, remember, what this question is about when it comes to this particular amount of squares. And he's constantly using memory, while my grandma was constantly using her logic and mathematics. Well, it turned out later down the road when I got old, my grandma was really good at calculating, estimating, and organization, but she had no memory, horrible memory. And then my grandpa was total opposite. He would have amazing memory. He'd remember anything you would do like from weeks ago, months ago, years ago, but he had zero calculating skills. So the things we do, the types of exercises we do with our brain, the more we get to keep certain parts of our brain as we get older and older, especially in their 90s. That was an insane case scenario.
I feel like if you're not even reading the prompt for the essay that you're trying to cheat in, like, you're really like, you at that point, like, that's bad. Like, you probably should have read the prompt.
Yeah.
T is down. Is it too far to ask Snapchat AI for exam answers?
Yeah, let's be honest, guys.
This was a bad combination. Ever since COVID, all this kind of like from homework or online work where you can just log in, do a bunch of problems, and get your stuff done. It was great in the beginning until AI became that thing, because students were always find a way to cheat. But now you can't even verify if the answers online are from the student or an AI, because they just submit it, copy and paste, whatever the case. There's no work involved, right? So now it's really hard to actually verify if students' online work is actually the student's work or a copy and paste from an online entity.
It's a bit much.
And then it uses
Snapchat
Taylor
for
Swift's
answers?
song where it
What?
says something like, I've got nothing in my brain. Yeah, because you're using AI for everything. You haven't learned anything, and thus you can't recall anything, and you're not able to do your exam. And you're panicking now when ChatGPT is down.
They're
It's
stupid.
interesting that she wants to use a social media's AI to help her cheat on her exam when it's social media that destroyed our critical thinking skills, and not just the desire to find the truth, but the ability to do so. People are
Social media didn't destroy people's critical thinking skills. Partisan politics and social constructions did.
Yeah.
People are afraid of critically thinking because it will put them at odds with the groupthink. And people are afraid of going at odds with the groupthink. Think
you
about
get
how many
called
people
names.
accidentally expressed their own opinion and then they were ostracized for it. That's one of the big reasons. And COVID is a good example too. People want to be sheep, and people will give away their ability for critical thinking in order to be good little sheep because they want to stay part of the flock. I think that obviously students aren't taught critical thinking either. But the reason why students aren't taught critical thinking is because a lot of the institutions are benefiting from students not having it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, think about the fact that if you fail your class, you have to take it again, and you have to pay money to take it again. So you're taking one class with two bills. Who benefits? The university. They get paid for every time you retake the class. What if there was a case scenario where if you had to repeat the class, the university would not get money on the second time, only for the first time? I bet you then they'll think of a real good way to make you pass because they don't want you back in there again taking the same class, wasting the professor's time. So the way that we have our system working, it's more profitable to have a failing student that will take your classes multiple times, pay you more money. And I've seen this a lot working at UCF, University of Central Florida. A lot of times students come in, they're not prepared, they're not going for it. They cram the test on the last day, expecting to have good results, and they got to take the class again. And there was a weird case where there was like gateway tests, test specifically to basically prevent you or get the top 5% of a class or a subject, but basically prevent you from passing. And they would make it absolutely obfuscated. Even the past test didn't really correlate together with the next test because they wanted to make it all like kind of shady and non-transparent so they can test you. And it was one of the tests I had to take. Now they don't have that test anymore. A bunch of people failed it. Basically, 95% of the computer science students failed that test, and now they don't have that test. A lot of them dropped out too. So what happened there? Do those kids get the chance to do it again because the test wasn't legit, or maybe they just didn't use it anymore? No. Whoever passed, passed. Whoever didn't, didn't. So like there's these kind of like gateways where a university specifically, not a college, but a university will try to basically fail a student so they can take that class again, so they can pay the money again and make the university more money. Working at a college, I've noticed a lot more care. The teachers have a more direct connection to the students. The classes are smaller, 30 persons per class. And even a lot of teachers between class movements or whatever, they'll actually help and ask or answer questions that a student will have. So they're a lot more human in like a community college or a college than if you were to go to a university. Because in the end, the university is just there for the money. It's a big business. So keep those things in mind. Take all your AP classes, get as many college credits as you can, and if you can take any classes at a college level and they transfer as credits to your university, take them at college. Don't waste your money on credit hours at a university because normally they cost 5 times as much than a regular college. Save money, get the easier, nicer, more interactive route, get every single class you need to get done in college, and then whatever you can't do in college, go to the university and finish it off. That's my definite, most optimized experience with a lot of students and recommendation.
Now relying on ChatGPT for things like hiking, and it's leading users who I guess are not familiar with hiking to go on these mountains
Clueless?
that still have snow, and they're wearing
Yikes.
sneakers. They're not even prepared for the
No
reality of
mountain
what the hike is
boots?
going to be like, and it's causing all these search and rescue teams to have to go out.
Oh my God. You need long
Now, we had a word
socks.
for this. Actually, 2 words for this.
That selection thing. What was it? What was
Hey.
it? What was it? Natural selection.
And rescue these people. People are relying so heavily on ChatGPT that they don't even understand that without cell reception, they can get no help from ChatGPT or a rescue team.
If you're not using ChatGPT for everything in your life, you're crazy.
This is by far the most powerful ChatGPT prompt I've ever seen. You are
We're
now
now operating in...
Okay. Your maximum processing capability across the main scenes of this export. What?
What a bunch of fucking retards. What's wrong with these people?
They think they're hackers.
Now operating in God mode.
I'm giving you guys right now the exact ChatGPT prompt that will help you manifest your dream life.
And this is how you can have a mental reprogramming of your brain. Here's the prompt.
Older people use ChatGPT as a Google replacement. Maybe people in their 20s and 30s use it as like a life advisor or something.
There's an interesting paradox happening.
Oh my God.
With AI where people feel they are genuinely leveling up. They're becoming better, faster, smarter. They're evolving with AI. However, the research says otherwise. Earlier this year, the Wharton School...
Yeah, I guaranteed they're not. Like, this is absolutely making people dumber.
Yeah.
Is it life advice? Yeah, no, they really are. People are doing this. And it's going to get a lot worse. This is probably, I think, 5% as bad as it's going to get.
Jesus.
It will get 95% worse.
Research on how we learn with LLMs. Their research showed that when we search for information ourselves, we're more invested, and thus, as we're searching out information, we synthesize and hold on to more of that information. Whereas with ChatGPT, it just
does that for
spits
you.
out an answer. We read it, we don't really hold on to the information, and we just keep going about our day. We then have the recently released MIT study that
this is also a lot of the students that I have, minus the one that does, you know, ChatGPT and all these kind of AI processes. I always tell my students they have to kind of tease their brain a couple of times in order to get information to stay. Because if you do something once, it's not going to stay. It's just the way our brains work, right? We have to see something over and over to recognize it, to really tell our brain, hey, this is important, keep it. Because our biology is completely detached from our will. We can't just make our brain just be like, all right, remember it? Cool, done. I wish. But the idea is you do something once, whether a math problem, whatever, you do it once, grind on it for 15 minutes and stop. And then ignore it. Forget it. You have to get your brain to forget it. And then you bring it back again, maybe a day or two or three. And then you do the same problem or a different problem similar to remember that process. Every time you prompt your brain to remember that piece of detail, the closer it gets to permanent memory. Because your brain's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm seeing this a bunch of times. That must mean it's important. Let me put it in long-term memory. But we do have short-term memory too, because there's just so much information. Some things go to short. But the student that basically studies 8 hours the night before the test puts everything in short-term memory. And once the test is done, they might do a good score. Cool. As soon as the test is done, 70% of everything they just did on that day to study is gone, completely out of the way. It's just gone. You forget it because that's just how we're programmed to function, to keep the important things that will come back to be a long-term memory, because we only have so much memory in our brain. So the brain has a filter. What's important, what's not important. So, and if you keep track of celebrities on a regular basis, yeah, your brain's going to start remembering things about celebrities. I don't care so much about celebrities and popular culture and all this kind of stuff. So I kind of like maintain my knowledge and information, and some people call me Google in some form or factor, because I just constantly love to build and learn and expand and go forward. But if you ask me anything about a celebrity, a football player, anything, it's I'm not gonna remember or care to remember for that matter.
shows that people who use LLMs tend to have less brain activity. In the study,
Well, yeah, obviously they have less brain activity because they're not using their brain. Like, this is pretty simple. So, I mean, this is like, in my opinion, I think that, and this is what I've noticed too, is that a lot of people that kind of lose their fucking minds, one of the reasons why is because they're not using them. Your brain is the same type of muscle that I think other things are. And if you're not regularly, like, here's a good way that I think everybody can realize this. How many of you guys between, like, I don't know, Christmas break or between like 1 year to the next year in school, you forgot your locker code? Well, why is that? Because you're not using it. You're not using that information. And so I think this can happen on a macro level. You can just straight up fuck.
Uh-oh. F in chat. Oh God, it's lagging.
It's called neuroplasticity. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I'm not sure.
That's what it is. Neuroplasticity.
Participants were asked to write an essay.
That's Starlink. Look at the chat go wild. It's Skynet.
Are we
It's
good?
taking over.
I had a little bit of hiccup.
A little bit.
Everything good? Okay. I don't know what that is. Twitch F? Yeah, there's been a lot of those recently.
Tend to have less brain activity. In the study, participants were asked to write an essay. The researchers used an EEG to measure the electrical activity of the brain as users were writing their essay. They found that the people who only used their brains exhibited the strongest, most distributed networks, and the LLM users displayed the weakest connectivity. The study also highlighted how people who used the LLM had a really hard time recalling what they'd even read or wrote with the
there it is.
LLM. And I know
Because they're stupid.
Because they're not prompting their own brain to remember it. They're just automatically basically copying and pasting just like that. You see it once, you put it in the prompt, copy and paste the result. Maybe you don't even read it because you're like, well, I'll trust the AI and then give it to the assignment input and then boom, you have a grade. But that means that you don't really learn anything from that process.
Another thing too is that like you have a selection bias going on with this because a lot of the people that use ChatGPT to figure out answers for everything are just stupid. Like that's it. Yeah, actual brain rot. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, this is I feel like this is always one of those things where it's like, oh, nobody's supposed to talk about this. But the reality is that a lot of people are fucking retarded. And like the bottom 20% of the of society are just dumb. They're dumb. They're dumb. These are the people that again, they need like back in the day they would be like their job would be how to turn a big rock into a little rock. And that's what they would do all day every day. And they had a hammer and they would do that. Or they would get all of the potatoes out of the ground or anything like that. And so, no, I'm just saying, right? And so that's the issue. And so now these people own a car. And that's a big fucking problem, isn't it? Holy shit. Can you imagine a person who's, this is like, this was the capacity that they were operating at. Now they have a car? Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'm capable of remembering how to spell or do math. I'm just lazy. I just get to Google it. Yeah, just make all tests in person with a pencil. You're being unfair to Masons. I'm not talking about stone masons. I'm talking about a guy with a hammer that just turns rocks into...
All right, he's diverging now. Anyway, yeah, AI is kind of like the more advanced calculator of our time. And if we don't use AI responsibly to better our thinking process, and we just use it as a source for copy and paste, we're going to end up just the same way the calculator was to the mathematical side of our logic. There's no logic anymore. Everyone is kind of like going behind some sort of social process and agreeing with something without questioning it, without troubleshooting it, without critical thinking for that matter. So now with AI, it's probably going to get worse. We don't consider, how to get to an answer anymore. We're just asking and accepting it. Like you saw people earlier that were asking questions about whether they can go to a different country, and before they even verified it, they're flying to that country and it says you can't be here. Like the AI doesn't know. It doesn't have that capability to completely give you an accurate answer. So we have to either practice due diligence and researching everything the AI tells us, which is kind of like a double dip, right? Now you have to put a little more effort into the process of what your AI is giving you, which does mean that you get to keep that information because the more intertwined and the more you're involved with the solving of the information, the more your brain's going to keep it. But if you just accept the information, copy and paste it, and go about your day, that's not how you learn. And that's how we start not having nice things anymore. And I'm talking about it from like the perspective of the future societies of how we're going to inherit people that are not capable of thinking for themselves. So I'll leave the link to both of them, to Asman and to the lady in the back in the description. If you want to keep watching the details, you can choose which one you want to watch. I definitely recommend. I'll probably just leave the original girl here. I always like Asman's input. He's very drastic in his observations and very contradictory to a lot of cases. But It's true. It's extreme situation where now we're introduced with AI that's gonna think for us, for most of us, not for all of us. I still use AI to create code, but then I look at the code and I analyze it to just really learn how the AI did it. I'm using it as a tool to expand my own capabilities. I'm not just copying and pasting and hoping everything's fine. Anyway, join our vibe sessions where we're coding using AI to create random things. Join and subscribe and follow for anything technological. I have a video that's going to show you how to build a PC using PC Building Simulator. We do a lot of programming. I go over mathematics. I basically do anything that will pose a type of exercise for the brain. So like and subscribe if you haven't already. And notifications, put those on so you can join me in my streams and we can just discuss more of these concepts because these are pretty intense. And leave any comments on what you think. Like, are we doomed? Are we fucked? Are we not going to be able to think anymore? Is idiocracy becoming a real thing? Oh, so many questions. Anyway, Idiocracy, good movie. Go watch it if you haven't. It's a comedy, but it's becoming a documentary. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. Like and subscribe. I'll